if you don't know and you're just getting into laser work, Lightburn is a great design software as well. Is it meant for that? Probably not. But I actually designed a lot of my CNC work, of course, my laser work, and pretty much anything I do starts with Lightburn. And some of those features that I'm going to show you today kind of help with that, and that's one of the reasons that I am going to show you. Now, there's other programs out there that do the same thing, Inkscape and such as that, but I find that Lightburn is just a one-stop shop, and for the most part, 85% of the time, I can get the stuff I need out of there. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, make sure I share the right one because that might be embarrassing. So, let's see here. I don't want to share a tab. I want to share a window. Stand by.
His Bang Bros is pulled up.
Yeah.
Just a midget porn.
Nug's gone
anyway,
wild.
I'm going to let this populate here. What you're seeing is a current project I'm working on. Someone needs a plaque done, and last minute, like always, they're like, hey, we'd like this patch on there. And I'm like, well, that wasn't really part of the price you paid, so we had to negotiate. And so now I'm designing. Okay, so they gave me a JPEG. I've already imported the JPEG into Lightburn. So if you don't know how to do that, reach out to us. We'll show you how. You could literally drag and drop. And as you see, it actually imports as an image in my layer over here. It's 02. That's the red layer over here. And this is what the JPEG looks like. Now, what we're going to do today is actually trace this and make it into SVG. One of the most useful features I find in Lightburn. A lot of people don't know about it. Some people do. I think all three of us utilize this constantly. So now you can go ahead and go up to tools and you have adjust image, which might help your tracing. But for today's purposes, we're going to go to trace image. And there's also a shortcut, Alt T, and you can go ahead and do that or click on it. And it's going to pull up a predetermined setting for the picture. What you see is that pinkish, purplish line is the basic outline of what it sees and what it's going to trace for you. You can do a sketch trace, which kind of does its own thing. You can kind of see it's imperfect. You see some of the lines are not right to the shape. I don't typically use that. I typically dial in the settings myself, just because I have not clicked that once and had it really grab this material I want. So I'm going to go ahead and declick that. Starting from the left bottom side here, you have ignore less than I have it set on 2. Smoothness, kind of smooths out the line so it's not so choppy and there's not a noise in that line. And then you have optimize, threshold going up, and cutoff. Now, I leave the bottom 3 pretty much the same settings in my Lightburn here. The cutoff and the threshold is where I really start to navigate this tracing program. So you have fade image, show points, and clear boundary as other options in here. And that kind of lets you see what is being traced a little bit better. I operate it with and without it, depending on the picture. The points are actually the nodes within the SVG you're about to create. Kind of shows you if you're going to go there and edit those points, by themselves, where you're going to be working. I really never had that on. Clear boundary, well, there's nothing to show on this particular image. So delete image after trace. I have that deselected because I want to be able to, if I don't like how this turns out, I can go back and I can reattempt it, right? So get that deselected, fade image, and now we have this right here, faded again so you can see it. So the cutoff is 0 and the threshold is at 128. Now technique for me is to go all the way to the right and then go with the cutoff and just kind of go through. I'm looking to see where I can get the most of the image in the clearest way. And then I kind of go back with this and I go through. Now, I cheated a little bit and I've already gone through and found the settings I want. And for this particular one, it's going to be 63 and 246. So we're close there. Let's see, 45. Okay. So I have a little bit of noise going on here. Here's 46. Now, This grabs pretty much everything but that 49. And the reason why I don't grab that 49, there's not enough contrast in there. That's why it's not grabbing that. But I can always go back and I can throw that text in there and I can utilize that on the back end. So it's not that big of a deal. The same thing with this border as well, which will be another tutorial we do later on. I'll show you how to outline stuff. But, if I was going to go ahead and pull this as is, I just go push OK. Now it's going to go ahead and it's going to fill in as SVG. It's going to be pre-selected, so I can pull it to the right. And what you see is the outline. And I'm going to go ahead and push a layer that I already have as fill. And that's going to be the SVG that I just made from that JPEG image. Now, I personally, like I said, I've already kind of done this because I was working it earlier. And later on during these the library month here, we can get into tracing. Now, this is the filled image that I originally had and what was pulled. And this is what I messed with and created the lettering and then outlining to create this image on the left-hand side here. And that's what I'll be engraving. So it's anything that you see that is blue is going to be engraved. Anything that is white is going to be not engraved. So we'll have some nice contrast with that piece of wood in that project. But yeah, that is my tip for you. Hopefully that could fit into your schedule and it helps you out. And you can export these too by just going to File and Export. And that will export SVG to your desktop or wherever you want it. So you can go ahead and utilize it in another program or send it to a friend. So thank you for my TED Talk. Boom.
So one thing I can say, Josh did a really good job with doing the tracing function, and luckily that patch they had was relatively easy to trace, I will say.
Yes.
So the higher the resolution your images, I found, obviously you'll get the better trace. But one thing I've noticed, and Nick, you might have done this a few times, because we didn't always get the best images from one of our biggest customers when I was in San Antonio with him. But we'd get like these super pixelated images. Either A, well, one, you could just cheat and have someone make it for you, or B, you spend the time and you make layers. So Josh is able to get a real good image right out the gate, which is optimal, but sometimes you'll get it to where you have to run multiple traces. So if you've ever used like Inkscape, there's a function in there where you can literally do like 5 or 6 scans and it'll give you 5 or 6 layers and you can pull it apart and you can, put your image together. Well, I do the same thing in Lightburn. I'll trace multiple times until I get my desired results or desired results for particular portions of it. But I've also been able to piece images together, like find stock images online and trace and align on the patches. So that's another function also as well. Like, don't be discouraged if you don't just get that first trace, because it doesn't always happen that way.
If you like, I can go ahead and kind of show you a little more detailed of that final image. That way they can kind of understand some of the layer functionality you're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and click and share this right now.
What'd you have, Nick, while he's getting that pulled up?
So I don't use the trace function on Lightburn. I either use Inkscape or I outsource. And when I outsource, it just costs the customer, and it takes a lot of the stress off of me. But
I find that like the more I've done it, like I have a couple programs I utilize. Inkscape is great. It definitely can do. It's a powerful program, but I start here and then I work my way down the line, and it doesn't take me long. Like this all right here, this patch right here, took me about 5-10 minutes. And you saw what I was working with. It was a good quality, but originally I did go into the tool functionality here, or the edit, and no, I'm sorry, tools. And I did adjust the image. I messed with the contrast and whatnot so that it had a better image quality than what I first had. And then this particular file right here has multiple layers. The blue layers, because this is the original I started off with. And then I use, we'll get into this later in the functionality of it, but this offset shapes to help with fine detailing. And this, the words right here were actually done after post-production of this to make it so that it actually stood out better. And even the rabbit right here, I did some work with the nodes to actually produce a better image than what I originally started off with. So there's a lot. This is a powerful program, a lot of features, and once you start learning it, it becomes a lot faster. And I actually still charge a design fee, the same fee that I would charge for someone else to do it, but I get to pocket that now because I got this down to a science. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But yeah, multiple layers for that single patch, and I'm happy with the results. I'll be laser engraving that this probably tomorrow. So
good work on that.
Thanks. We have about one more tutorial on Lightburn, and then we could change it up and do something else. But I think this is a good start. We talk a lot about lasers and designing, so I think that hopefully that helps someone out there. But if you'd like to, man, we can go ahead and wrap this up and call it a night.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. Sounds good, man.
Okay.
I sound like the guy that works at